government's doing a good enough job taking a look at the risks posed by wind turbines. Is that why you've decided not to look into that?
No, wind turbines remains a concern of us, the development of wind turbines and the issues relating to health. Right now, the ministry, the government has taken measures to reassure itself. There's judicial action that's taking place. So right now, we're just taking a wait-and-see approach, and it's one of the things we're monitoring very closely. There are three areas as well in the annual report that I'd like to emphasize right now, apart from wind turbines. One is the oversight of hospitals. I used this moment of publishing the annual report to draw attention to areas where the Ombudsman in Ontario has no jurisdiction. And as part of the MUSH sector, the municipalities, universities, school boards, and hospital, one of the areas that gives me a tremendous amount of concern is the absence of proper oversight in hospitals. You know, we're dealt with by the government doomsday scenarios. We're told, you know, it used to be that we spent 30 cents on the dollar to fund hospitals. Today it's 46 cents. In 12 years it could be 70 cents. It could bankrupt the province. And right now there's legislation before the Legislative Assembly that develops quality improvement plans, that creates bureaucratic committees to assess performances of hospitals. You know, there's musings about making hospitals fall under freedom of information. But we still have no investigative body that can number crunch the performance independently of hospitals. Every other province can afford it. Every other province is there. Our approach in Ontario, and I don't want to be critical of the bill before the Legislative Assembly because I think they're all good measures. But it's a little bit like sending someone to a gunfight with a slingshot. If they're really good with a slingshot, they can actually, you know, cause a couple of bruises. But the problem, the way it's been presented to us, the doomsday scenario needs to have proper oversight. And we don't have that in Ontario, and it doesn't seem to be in the cards. That's one issue that's of concern to me. Oui.
Ce que vous dites, c'est que tous les efforts des parlementaires afin d'augmenter la qualité des soins, et c'est pas une hypocrisie, mais presque parce qu'il n'y aura aucune façon pour les citoyens de mesurer si ça fonctionne ou non.
On nous présente des scénarios qui sont plutôt extrêmes au point de vue budgétaire, que 70 cents pour chaque dollar des dépenses provinciales pourrait bien être absorbé par le secteur des hôpitaux, le secteur de la santé. Et puis, on est dans une situation en Ontario où l'Ombudsman de l'Ontario, le protecteur du citoyen, n'a pas compétence pour enquêter les hôpitaux. Et donc, si le problème est aussi sérieux qu'on le fait valoir, pourquoi ne pas prévoir ce que les autres provinces ont prévu, c'est-à-dire une surveillance indépendante par le protecteur du citoyen? Toutes les autres provinces sont capables de le faire. Pourquoi est-ce qu'en Ontario, on n'est pas prêt à faire confiance à une indépendance, une surveillance indépendante dans ce secteur-là?
Est-ce que les citoyens gagneraient à avoir une meilleure surveillance?
Bien, écoutez, on serait rassuré que les plaintes vis-à-vis des hôpitaux seraient enquêtées de façon indépendante et qu'il y aurait un rapport public. Maintenant, on va nous lancer toutes sortes de chiffres, toutes sortes de numéros. Comment on fait pour les interpréter? Comment on fait pour faire enquête sur les plaintes du public? En ce moment, il n'y a pas les moyens pour faire ça.
I'd like to go back to your meeting with the Premier following
Yes.
your reappointment. Did you discuss at the meeting bringing more transparency to your own living arrangements and expenses?
Mm-hmm. Well, this office has taken the initiative of deciding that we will be posting our expenses online. Right now, we are looking at the various models that are there, and we're really tackling it the same way we tackle our investigations, not in a reactionary way, but in a thorough way, looking at the various models. Right now, in the province and in the federal government, there are models that are really all over the map. Some people are reporting or planning to report expenses on a monthly basis. Some are planning to do them quarterly. Some have only the top layers of the organization. Some have the whole organization. I accept the premise that increased transparency of expenses leads to a better informed public and leads to a more informed discussion as to what is a reasonable expense and what is not. And that's the direction that we're moving in. I don't believe we had any discussion on that. This initiative that I've decided to take from our office perspective.
A second question, you highlight in the report the many individual cases that were resolved quietly and proactively behind the scenes, and you said you're going to continue with that thrust. Why the change? Because we know that often it's bringing publicity to a problem that has been what has galvanized the government to take action. So why the shift?
The office that is the Ombudsman's office in 2010 is vastly different from the office in 2005. In 2005, when I became Ombudsman, the office was to be axed, completely eliminated, according to a Deputy Minister resolution, because it was deemed to be of no value. It was invisible. So it was important for us to create that visibility, to be taken seriously. The old Ombudsman's office would call trying to resolve an issue, and we'd be a message in a pile. The new Ombudsman's office, with the increased visibility, gets things moving. You know, we're not in the business of publishing reports for the sake of publishing reports, getting publicity for the sake of getting publicity. We are in the business of getting publicity for one very good reason, to get things moving. You know, when I sat down with the OLG 10 days before I released my report, and I said, guys, you got to scan retailers' background to make sure they're not crooks. What was I told? Well, we can't do this, privacy concerns. So we needed to publish a report. Now, they are thoroughly investigated before they handle $4 billion in public funds. So what I'm saying is that what used to be tools that were required to get things moving are not as pressing today. But that doesn't mean it won't happen. If we sense that things are not moving, there will be reporting as much as reporting is necessary.
Yes. 39 families in Ontario have felt that they may have to turn to the state and give their kids up for care because they can't get medical needs for their kids. This has been a problem for years. There's 24 kids last year. Why do you have to continue to do this behind the scenes and there's still no systemic solution?
It's an area that causes me an enormous amount of distress, that the number's gone from 24 to 39. That said, when we've raised the issue, we've got things resolved. So as long as that happens, we are happy to play ball. If we see that there's a need, if we see that the ministry becomes entrenched, and if we see that we're not able to resolve things amicably, then we may need to take a larger shot at the problem, systemic approach. But like I said in my prior answer, as long as we get things moving, that's the key thing. As long as people know they can access our office and know we can get things moving, that's the key.
Are you going to take out an ad? How are families going to know that this is like that you are the last resort?
I think it's well known in the system that we are there because of the amount of people that are turning to us. I'm hoping we're not missing anybody. No, these are all areas of ongoing interest. Another area that I want to talk about briefly is the Special Investigations Unit. We are doing a follow-up investigation of the SIU. We will be reporting publicly on it in the coming months. We've seen some very encouraging signs coming from within the SIU as to reforms that are happening. We have seen, however, not very encouraging signs from the Ministry of the Attorney General. We made 21 recommendations to the Ministry of the Attorney General in oversight unseen. We received at the time what we thought was a bit of a equivocal response. At the time, I gave the Ministry of the Attorney General benefit of the doubt, saying to them that the equivocation could well mean that, in fact, they will step in the right way. We are going back to look very carefully at those 21 recommendations, and I want them to be on notice today that they weren't just made for fun. They were made because we believe in the seriousness of them. We believe that, for example, the definition of serious injury should be clarified. We believe that the legislative framework should be clarified. We believe that there should be consequences for police agencies that fail to abide by the law. And I haven't really seen so far any great movement to fix the problem. And so The investigation's ongoing. I don't have much more to say about that, except that we will be very rigorously following up with the Ministry of the Attorney General to make sure that we see change in how they operate.
But you're implying that they're not following up on that issue of consequences for not complying.
So far, unless there's a master plan that's being kept highly secret, I've not been made aware of any great strides in how the Ministry of the Attorney General supports the Special Investigations Unit. The SIU is a very small agency, has to deal with tens of thousands of police officers in very difficult circumstances. The SIU is embroiled in high-level litigation involving police cooperation. I want to see the Ministry of the Attorney General support the SIU. I want to see them support vigorous oversight, and we'll be reporting back more thoroughly if we on our findings relating to that.
To the point, you're saying police services are still acting with impunity, still not cooperating the way they should be?
My comment is not a reflection of police, it's a reflection of my concerns that I have right now with the Ministry of the Attorney General. The investigation's ongoing, and I want them simply to be put on notice that we haven't forgotten about our follow-up investigation.
Can I ask about the Tanya was asking about earlier, about the 39 families up from 24 that have had to go to your office for help so they don't have to give up custody of their children. Why, after the special reports that you've done in the highlighting of these cases, would anyone be still being asked to give up custody of their children? Is there no policy that says this is just abhorrent and we don't do it?
You know, there's a congruence of several factors. Firstly, the money's tight. Secondly, there's semantics. You know, every time we raise this issue, someone in the ministry takes offense. Well, no child has ever been surrendered to the CAS. And then we find agreements where they have been surrendered. Well, there's no court order. And so it's money, semantics. It's a system that's not properly designed, I think, to accommodate the very special needs of children with special needs. And, you know, we may need to take another run at the system to find ways that we can have a system that's more humane and more compassionate. Until we've done that, we are happy to rely on the goodwill, and there has been tremendous goodwill on part of the government. But again, can we come up with a better infrastructure to deal with this without calling on the government to bankrupt itself? And that's a difficult position that we're in this current fiscal climate. You know, the government doesn't want to run to the squeaky wheel and grease it every time someone's unhappy. But by the same token, we can't leave some of the most vulnerable people in society to fend for themselves and to suffer because of government inaction.
Marin, vous parlez notamment de l'effet de la récession et de la crise économique sur certaines des plaintes que vous avez reçues. Est-ce qu'il y a des plaintes que vous avez reçues que vous pouvez lier directement au climat économique? Et si oui, est-ce qu'il y a une augmentation de ce genre de plaintes-là?
Il n'y a pas de doute là, que le gouvernement va devoir continuer dans le climat fiscal qui nous occupe en ce moment. Il va continuer à devoir prendre des décisions qui sont difficiles, des coupures budgétaires, des compressions budgétaires. Et puis, dans les mois et les années qui vont suivre, c'est le rôle de l'Ombudsman, le protecteur du citoyen, de s'assurer que ces coupures budgétaires-là ne sacrifient pas les plus vulnérables dans la société. Et puis, ce qu'on voit, c'est qu'il y a des décisions qui sont prises qui peuvent affecter ces gens-là. Et puis nous, ça nous met aux aguets pour surveiller le gouvernement, pour s'assurer que les décisions qui sont prises, qui sont nécessaires en vue du climat fiscal qui est présentement la situation en 2010, que ces décisions-là soient prises de façon juste et équitable.
Greeted with applause and adulation back in the shop after your reappointment.
Pardon me?
Greeted with applause back in the office after your
People
reappointment.
were very thrilled. You have to realize that in the last few months, this whole process has slowed down our operations. And some of it was a conscious decision by me because I exercise moral suasion. Now, what do I do if I have a big, splashy, as you would say in your parlance, public report that either is seen as cutting some favors to the government when I've reapplied to my job, Or conversely, if I release a report which is undue critical and gets me the front page of the paper. You're in an no-win situation as an ombudsman. You have to be able to deal from a position of strength and not be seen as a lame duck. So, we continue to our work, but on a lower level, and it's unfortunately meant that some of our high-level systemic work was on a more restrained basis. So we have, in the next couple of months, we have a report coming out on the LINS, Local Health Integrated Network. We have a report coming out on long-term care. We have a report coming out on the SIU. So I think my staff are very pleased to get back to work. Last night I was going back in at around 9 o'clock to polish up on the annual report, and I ran into a couple of staff members who said, I can't wait till the annual report is out and we can all move on to our next project, because since I was appointed, this has been the next job, was to release the annual report. So we have people that are anxious. They're anxious to launch again, and I'm happy to give them that. Thank you very much.